On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, the Oklahoma City Thunder continue their dominance of the Eastern Conference. They're able to get a win against Milwaukee to sweep this three-game road trip, only losing one time so far to the East. Isaiah Hartenstein, dominant. SGA dropped 30 again, but it was a secondary unit that really impressed. We'll talk about it all on today's show.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I'm your host, media member and beat writer for Thunder on SI, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. On today's show, brought to you by our good friends over at Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com to get 50% off your first order. We're talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder dominating the Bucks in the fourth quarter, getting their third straight win in a row, their ninth straight road win, and another win over the East for this Thunder team. The wins keep piling up, and it feels like we keep saying every win's the most impressive win because there's little storylines and details that make it feel that way. But in the end, this was one of the most professional wins for the Thunder. This was one of the most mature wins for the Thunder because of the circumstances. To sweep a three-game road trip where you don't have Jalen Williams for any of the three games, and you break it down like this: no J-Dub, no Wiggins against Boston, no J-Dub, no Chet, no Wiggins, and Dort doesn't close the game against Detroit because he had an injury. No Dort, no Dub tonight. And for the Thunder to go 3-0 in that stretch is wildly impressive. And I'll tell you how, because you go back and listen to last week's episode where we're previewing this upcoming stretch, and we thought 1-2 would be pretty good under these conditions, because this is a Thunder team who has struggled at times to score when SGA is not on the floor, when they're at or near full strength. And without their second best scorer, they not only were up to task, but they thrived in those minutes. If I would have told you heading into that Boston game where some of the air was let out of the balloon when you found out that J-Dub was not on the road trip, that the Thunder would only get down by 2 points against Boston and Milwaukee. The largest leads that Boston and Milwaukee had in each game was 2 points. You would have looked at me like I had three heads. It felt impossible. But this team continues to do the impossible. This team continues to defy those things that we think about them on each given night. And I think that both teams deserve a lot of credit tonight because they were both playing on the second night of a back-to-back. Milwaukee did get a tiny boost for both of them being at home, but it's still very tough. And to each team's credit, until Milwaukee let go of the rope in that fourth quarter and the Thunder lead ballooned out to 25, it didn't look like these two teams were on the second night of a back-to-back. They really gave it their all for 48 minutes. Not always the case in the NBA, but especially in the NBA on the second night of a back-to-back. But it was a credit to the Thunder to be able to outlast this Milwaukee team. I mean, at the first stoppage, it was 13-0. Milwaukee was locked in and dialed in on both ends of the floor. Oklahoma City was as well. 4 lead changes, 4 ties. But at the end of the day, it was the secondary unit that shined. Isaiah Hartenstein will be big conversations tonight. But the Thunder's defense held Milwaukee to 39% from the floor, 38% from three, and 27% at the charity stripe. Meanwhile, the Thunder shot 51% from the floor, 34% from three, and 76% from the charity stripe. The Thunder dominated points in the paint, 60-36 against a very big Milwaukee team. OKC was a -1 in second chance points, is a -3 in fast break points, which is where Giannis was able to get going because whenever the defense wasn't set, he did get the bulk of his points. But the Thunder just absolutely obliterated Milwaukee on the glass, 50-34. Thunder had 31 assists. Both teams had 9 turnovers. And the Thunder allowed just 15 points in that second quarter. 15 points in that second quarter. And that's how this group did what you need them to do in the playoffs with one hand tied behind their back. What do we always talk about when we look at this team big picture wise? When they have J-Dub out there, He doesn't need to be Shai, but he needs to have that secondary unit at least float. You can't sink in the non-Shai minutes. But if you can get J-Dub to have this team swim and extend their lead instead of just floating, then that's where you get blowout losses. That's where you get lopsided series. That's where you get a massive advantage. They did that against Boston and against, especially tonight, Milwaukee, in a big way without their second best scorer. So the fact that this secondary unit was able to swim on their own without SGA was impressive. So much so that, the Thunder, they're trying to manage the minutes. They're trying to figure out how to handle the back-to-back, but also trying to figure out how to time everything, because you're preparing for, I don't want to say you're preparing for the secondary unit to sink, because that's a bit extreme. Like, these are still talented players. You would hope that they could float. But similarly to what they've done in the past, where you keep it within striking distance and then Shai takes over, you were expecting kind of that to be the flow of the game. So Mark was able to change the rotations for Shai to where in the first quarter, Shai typically plays all 12 minutes, but instead he played 10 minutes with the idea, I'm assuming, being, hey, you play 10 minutes here, we can get you back in the second quarter 2 minutes early, when in all likelihood, we're going to need you to come in early and salvage the end of that second quarter. But they took him out 2 minutes early in the first quarter, and that secondary lineup, it swam so well, it excelled so well down bodies, that they were able to extend the lead. First of all, wrestle the lead away because they were down 2, get the lead and extend it. And Shai was able to play his normal rotation, not subbing in 2 minutes early, just coming in after that 7-minute mark. And that's a huge advantage for this Thunder team. That's part of the difference tonight. Of the Thunder could survive without Shai, Milwaukee couldn't survive. They just couldn't survive. So without Dame and Giannis especially. So I just think that the Thunder deserve a hat tip, because they had every reason to go the other way. And this team continues not to fall into norms. And it's interesting, because if they keep that trend up, it's going to end in great success. But what's the norm in the NBA? You go on this 3-game road trip. It's getaway day on the second night of a back-to-back. You feel like you've overachieved, frankly, of we already got 2 in hand, with all this adversity of all these injuries that stacked up over the course of this week. Losing Dub on Monday, you lose Dort, you lose Zeus Saturday. Wiggins has been in and out with an illness. It feels like you've kind of made the best of it, so to say, heading into this game. And so if they would have packed it in second night of a back-to-back, it'd be tough to criticize, right? Because that's kind of what the NBA does, except that's not what the Thunder team does. That's not at all what the Thunder team does. And so I thought that deserved, quite the appreciation for the effort level that this team plays with every single night. And it's led to their success in the regular season. And hopefully for the Thunder, they can parlay this into success in the postseason. But these things really do matter. The ability to find ways to win and to have that next man up approach. And, you're not going to replace J-Dub scoring by just having someone else take over. It's sort of similar to Moneyball, right? Where the A's can't go replace Giambi, but they can replace him in the aggregate. You're pulling and prodding and trying to push and pull to find ways to collectively add what you're missing. And I thought defensively tonight, it really showed out, where against Dame and against Giannis, what were you missing heading into the game? You were missing a wing who can scale up and defend all 5 positions. You were missing an elite point of attack defender. Well, enter Cason Wallace in that Lou Dort role, where he hounded Dame and was awesome in that Dame assignment, including especially at the end of that second quarter. Again, the Bucks had 15 second quarter points. They were searching, clinging, and clawing for any momentum heading into intermission, and Cason just shuts down their final possession and gets the ball out of Dame's hands. And then you're trying to replace J-Dub, who can defend all positions on the floor and really scale up and defend bigger bodies like a Giannis. Enter Alex Caruso, who's another guy that is able to scale up and defend multiple positions. It just continues to display the embarrassment of riches that this Thunder team has, and the depth and the quality of depth that this Thunder team has. It's impressive. It's impressive. And you should really appreciate what you're watching, because I really do believe, with all due respect to past Thunder teams, This is the most talented Thunder team that Sam Presti's ever put together. I don't know how far they're going to go. I can't promise you that they're going to go to the finals. I can't promise you that they're going to win a championship. But as far as pound for pound talent from the 1 through 15 spot, this is the most talented roster that they've put together. This is the best Thunder team. They're on pace to have the most wins in the regular season. We'll see what they end up doing come playoff time. But it's impressive to watch night in and night out. They are truly elite defensively. They play to their identity every single night. And offensively, you've seen things click. You've seen things look really good. We'll talk about that double big lineup clicking. We'll talk about how they made up for the lack of J-Dub offensively in this game, all coming up. But first, I want to say right now, our good friends over at DoorDash, check out DoorDash today because NBA fans, get ready. When they swish, you save thanks to Dash Pass. Every time a player drops 50 or more points in the game, you score with a huge deal the next day. It's simple. When any player scores 50 or more points in the game during the 24-25 regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order up to $10 off. The next day from noon to midnight, you can take advantage of that offer. From late night cravings to lunch on the go, perhaps you stayed up a bit too late. Perhaps the 50 ball came in a West Coast game. You stayed up too late watching the games and you forgot to pack your lunch. Well, guess what? They can deliver lunch right to you with Dash Pass. Check them out today because if you sign up right now for Dash Pass, you'll be ready to save when any player drops 50 or more points. Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off, just by using promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after that 50-point performance on eligible orders at participating locations. Right now, you must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms and conditions apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. Also want to say right now, my good friends over at FanDuel, check out FanDuel right this second because March Madness is here. FanDuel is giving you a chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets on your first $5 bet if it wins. That's $200 to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting the nets down. You'll pick the favorites if you want to. Or if you have a little bit of a spry underdog, little scrappy underdog in you that you think is going to be the pick to click, like Mini State, you can pick them as well by going to FanDuel.com to get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. If that's not your jam and you're more of just an NBA fan, they have NBA odds out there for you as well, like this game between the Pistons going down to New Orleans. The Pistons, 6.5-point favorites in NOLA, according to FanDuel.com. Go check that out today at FanDuel.com. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you, talking Thunder basketball. We talked a lot about what this team did and what this team was able to accomplish as a big picture unit. Let's get into the minutia of the individuals and the individual games from tonight. I thought Isaiah Hartenstein. I thought your two most impactful players were Isaiah Hartenstein, Isaiah Joe. Let's start with Hartenstein. The physicality that he played with Giannis was really good. I mean, again, that stoppage of 13 all, the Thunder, I thought, needed to up the physicality, and they did that. And you can tell by the shot chart. Look, Giannis has really developed that mid-range game. He's shooting a career best 45% from the mid-range. With all due respect, that's still the shot you want Giannis taking. You want Giannis taking those mid-range jumpers, and if he's cashing them in, fine. But you know what has a better success rate than even 45%? His ability to get downhill with a full head of steam that leads to either great looks or fouls. And the Thunder played into his body, played really physical, pushed him out of the deep paint, and were able to find success. Now, in the weeds there, they did foul him a ton because they were playing physical. I thought that this was a very well officiated game. I thought that the refs were consistent in letting certain plays go, letting certain physicality into the game. I thought they did a really great job, and so did the Thunder, playing physical with Giannis, even though the Thunder lost the free throw battle. Look, the Thunder foul more than any team in the league, and that's the nature of their defense. But when it all comes out in the wash, you end up ahead with that physicality. They did so tonight. We mentioned how the Thunder dominate on the glass tonight. It was all thanks to Isaiah Hartenstein, who he himself collected 12 rebounds, but you go back and watch, and the amount of rebounds that I would say he accounted for, I need to do my best David Locke impression, the godfather, the creator of not only this network, but screen assists where he was illustrating how important Rudy Gobert was. I need to do that for Hartenstein because rebounds accounted for, rebounds created, whatever the advanced stat could be, which stems from the box outs and the way that he puts bodies on guys around the rim to let other guys clean it up, attributes to the Thunder's total rebound advantage in this game. So Hartenstein deserves a lot of credit for the rebounds he got and the rebounds he generated tonight. And then he had that floater working. We know it best with Hartenstein on that floater. 15 shot attempts, 11 makes, 73% from the floor for Hartenstein. 24 points to go with those 12 rebounds, 3 assists as well. It felt like he had more than 3 assists because he had those potential assists. He had the hockey assists. It was all working for him tonight as a passer. But with Hartenstein, the reason why this double big lineup is clicking, especially offensively, is because of the playmaking tools that Chet and Hartenstein have. For Chet, he's a good playmaker. For Hartenstein, he's an elite playmaker. And with the ball in their hands, you can really impose your will on teams. When this double big lineup was struggling at times, what was the big pushback on trying things out? As I'm sitting here trying to bash into your heads like, hey, they're going to try this, that they're hoping this can turn around. There's no need to panic because, it's either going to work or it's not. And they have this leeway to play with. People would always come back and say, well, how many teams are going to require you to go double bigs? I think that there's a few more than what others would give them credit for, like teams that are capable of putting out a big lineup that needs the 2 bigs on the floor. But I'd flip that and say the reason that you stay so stubborn with testing out this lineup is because if you get it to a workable place, which it has been over the last week, if you get it to a workable place, then you can start to impose your will on teams. This is a big Milwaukee team, but at times they have to play small. And that double big lineup found its groove, found its most success tonight against smaller lineups. Because it's the inverse of what happened to the Thunder a year ago, where the Thunder couldn't combat that size. And the Thunder have paired 2 centers who have great functionality next to one another and can play off of one another so well as they gain more chemistry. And it's perfectly illustrated by a simple play where Hartenstein gets the ball in the post. Chet Holmgren gets the ball in the post, back to the basket. You want your center committing to Chet Holmgren, a 7-footer by the basket who has great touch, who can shoot the mid-range. And so if you only have one center on the floor and he commits to Chet, and here comes Hartenstein cutting down the lane with a full head of steam, and Chet's capable of making that pass and setting him up for an easy dunk, cutting behind the defense, and they do that vice versa as well, where Hartenstein's the one with the ball. Well, you're in a bind. You can't defend that because if you don't commit to Chet, he's going to turn around and get to the basket. If you don't commit to Hartenstein and put your body on him with his back to the basket, he's going to turn around and pop that floater. And you're in this pick your poison situation that you find yourself in so often with SGA. But when he's off the floor, the 2 bigs are on the floor, you can duplicate that feeling and kind of advantage with these 2 guys because it's almost impossible to combat the double big lineups without the size that's required. And by the way, if you have that size that's required and you stick 2 guys at the rim and say, well, let's try to take away the cuts. Well, guess what? Chet can shoot the 3 and you're either going to have to leave him open from 3 and let him shoot from beyond the arc. And if Chet's hitting from beyond the arc, then boom, that's an advantage Thunder. And if you close out to him with a heavy-legged center, he's going to go right past you, playing off the catch and getting to the rim. So you can see all the binds that this combination just in the front court puts onto teams to where you almost have this helpless feeling. And that's what the end goal is for this lineup, especially on the offensive end. And you've seen them gel in terms of spacing, motion, and playmaking. That's been the killers in this lineup for the Thunder offensively. And then defensively, that's kind of where I had my biggest questions about this combination because it does completely alter your typical identity. Not to say that Chet and Hartenstein are bad switching, but it's very different to switch 5 whenever you have 2 centers on the floor. You can try the switch 4. You can try to leave one at the rim and let one roam. You can try zone. You can try man-to-man and just try to play them straight up. You can switch 3 and drop the others. You can do a lot of different things, but you've got to find what the identity is to make that happen. Tonight they played some zone. And so that's came around as well, as you saw tonight, where they held Milwaukee to 105 points. Like that's came around as well. As Chet was a +4, Hartenstein a +23 in this game. He was incredible whenever he was on the floor. And so the Thunder have really figured out that two big stuff. Also, shout out to Chet Holmgren. The willingness to shoot the three really helps their spacing, the ability to run the floor, either going basket to basket, rim running, or just trailing the play and stepping into a three was big. We talked about his playmaking chops with Heart, but he's really catching a groove as Holmgren puts up 16 points, 8 boards, and 3 assists on 2 for 4 shooting from three. Let's talk Isaiah Joe coming up and how the Thunder continued to thrive with his SGA, Isaiah Joe, and so much more. But first, one say right now, but good friends over at Monarch Money, folks. Monarch Money is incredible. Have you ever checked your bank account and wondered, where's all the money going? Between dining out and online shopping and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO. It gives you full visibility and complete control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command control center. You can track your actions on your account from your investments, spending all in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building your wealth. It's an all-in-one, all-encompassing app that instead of juggling multiple apps at Monarch, you get your tracking to check your finances, track your spending, but you even get to plan your long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com to use code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for joining us each and every day talking Thunder basketball. I hope you subscribe, like, comment on the show, and make this a part of your daily routine as we're here Monday through Friday, including bonus shows like our Pistons recap over the weekend when the Thunder make us work overtime. But again, check out Amazon basketball breakdown, the Amazon bracket breakdown from Locked On, and make sure you're up to date on the March Madness tournament. But the Thunder got a big win in this one against Milwaukee. Isaiah Joe starts out 4 for 4. He was on a heater from the word go tonight off the bench for OKC. He gives you 19 points, 6 for 12 overall, 50% shooting, and 5 for 9 from three. The back cuts from Joe were opened up with the playmaking of Isaiah Hartenstein, where he was able to get going in the mid-range, just stepping into one on the give and go with Hartenstein. 6 rebounds for him, 2 assists for him. And I thought that Isaiah Joe, what really was impressive, and not just a 5 for 9, because obviously it's impressive when the ball goes in, but it was where he was positioned on the floor. When we're talking about how things translate to the playoffs, when we're talking about how the Thunder can create advantages when SGA is double teamed or when teams go into a zone. Those are the two big things that have had trepidation for the Thunder offense. What's the counter to that? One counter is Isaiah Joe hitting deep threes, hitting from the hash mark. And he did that tonight. And I think that if he's having an on night from distance, and now you can incorporate 2 or 3 steps beyond the arc as a part of your spacing, it just opens up the floor so much for this Thunder team. And especially come playoff time as the game moves into a half-court game, and you really need to find those margins to create wins. SGA had an SGA game. He was very much laboring by the end of it. Where he was fatigued, 0 for 5 from 3. I think partly because of his legs, and partly because he was just trying to get it going from beyond the arc. But obviously, he felt the second night of a back-to-back. Even went 9 for 11 from the free throw line. But he ends up with 31 points, 8 assists, and 2 rebounds. I thought that the 8 assists were the most important part of this game. Yes, the 30-point streak and the 20-point streak stays alive. He was still efficient with 40% from the floor, although not as efficient as he typically is, and played 33 minutes. But the playmaking is really, really good. And the functionality of this Thunder offense has been really good. And it's stuff like this. We talked about the Isaiah Joe thing. Now let's talk about the half-court offense as a whole. The play that happened in the second half of this game where Caruso screens Shai's defender at the timeline as they're shadowing him 94 feet, screens Shai's defender at the timeline. Shai dribbles the ball to the wing, to the slot of the three-point line, and Caruso sets up the screen again, and SGA rejects that screen, meaning he didn't take the screen on the rescreen from Caruso. But see, when Caruso sets up that screen, the Bucks have already hedged the screen, and they're loading up to double team him off of that screen, but Shai rejects it. Now the Bucks are off kilter just from the freeze frame of what the court looks like. It's now loaded up in the wrong direction. And so now as Shai's coming downhill, they have to adjust. And that left Wiggins man to step up onto Shai. And now Wiggins is alone at the basket, and Shai pulls off this wraparound pass behind the defense to get Wiggins an easy 2 points. And so when teams are going to apply this pressure to Shai, his improved playmaking, where you're seeing him throw these skip passes all across the court, you're seeing him have the patience of that Caruso play. The lob to iHeart was a slow pick and roll where he just kept his dribble alive, put his defender in jail, and waited for Hartenstein to come cutting behind the defense as the center steps up to grab Shai in the mid-paint and throws up a lob to Hartenstein. Like, those things are what takes you far. Those things are how you translate the success into the playoffs. And it was good to see from the Thunder. And at some point, tomorrow we're going to have a show about X factors for the playoffs. One of those X factors is can everybody else click at the right time offensively? Because what you saw, even in that Minnesota game, which you lost, so it's not just the wins, even in that Minnesota game, which you lost, when they were getting the ball out of Shai's hands, his improved playmaking set up really good looks, like great looks. By any measurement, those are great looks. They didn't happen to go in. But when these shots are going in and when you're able to create advantages like this, then you're either going to have to play 4-on-3 to send extra pressure to Shai, or you're going to have to play Shai straight up. And if those other shots, if the supporting cast members are hitting their shots for Shai, there's no great option in defending this Thunder team. And again, I thought that the rest was big for the Thunder with what we mentioned at the first segment about his rotation. Alex Caruso. This is, I think, the perfect note of a make or miss league. Because I had a comment on social media, and it was a well-intended comment, but like they were just pondering, like, why are the Thunder supporting cast members, let's continue that verbiage, playing so well right now, the secondary unit playing so well right now. And it stems from like guys like Caruso, who Alex Caruso in this game went for 10 points off the bench. He just made his shots. Like the Thunder, he was 0 for last night and missed layups. Like he got clean looks, and we talked about it on the show last night that was a game where Caruso has to be better, has the avenue to be better, and he will be better, and he was better tonight. Those shots went in, and now it's a completely different perspective, a completely different taste in your mouth. Pause from the game from Caruso and the game from the Thunder secondary unit as a whole. The offense was there. The defense was stellar. We mentioned him stepping into that dub role. We mentioned Cason Wallace stepping into that Dort role, and you cannot say enough about what he did defensively to Damian Lillard. Now, look, Lillard's still going to get his. He had 19 points tonight, but he had 19 points on 33% shooting. So the points were down. The efficiency was dreadful by Dame standards, superstar standards. And of those 19 points, 11 of them came at the free throw line, which I don't say as like a free throw merchant comment. I'm saying that like the Thunder played physical with them. Yes, they sacrificed 11 points, but the rest of the time that they're playing physical without fouling, they allowed 8 points. If my Lawton Public Schools math is correct, which oftentimes it's not, but that's a conversation for a different pod. They let up 8 points. 8 points to Dame from the floor. You take that every day of the week. Every day of the week, you take that from this Thunder team, and that is because of their physical approach, and it's because the embarrassment of riches that they have with their defensive unit. Giannis goes for 21, 10, and 12, but he shot 46% from the floor, 7 for 12 from the free throw line. The Thunder did a great job on Giannis. I really do believe that. He's one of those players that you can't really judge how well the Thunder played just based on the point total. It's about how they got to those looks. And you look at this shot chart from Giannis, and you look at how many of those shots came in the restricted area versus how many of those shots came in the mid-range area, from the elbows. You draw an imaginary line from the dunker spot through the elbows and to the other dunker spot. How many of those came outside of that or just at that line? That's what you really want from Giannis, and the Thunder did a great job of that in this game, holding him to shots away from the restricted area. He still got his fair share, but the Thunder didn't let him just abuse that part of the floor, which is where you start to see things unraveling from him. And when he did get to that part of the floor, it was largely based upon fast break or coming off of a rebound, coming off of a missed shot or turnovers, because the Thunder had 9 turnovers, where your defense isn't set. But when the Thunder got into their set shell, they did an excellent job defending Giannis. So that's all we got from this Bucks game, and that's all we got from this Eastern Conference road trip. Again, tomorrow's show on Tuesday will be all about Thunder X factors for the playoffs. So taking away, you got to play great defense because, that's what this team's built on. Taking away, Shai's got to be excellent because, that's what this team's built on. What are the things on the margins that this team has to do come playoff time? Let me know your thoughts down below. We'll talk about it on the show tomorrow. And until then, be good and be good to one another.